Good morning, and hey now, PASW, staff, clients, and friends joining us. Hope you guys had a good week, and welcome to Monday's class. We looked at Batman and your film scoring assignment for that last week, and you guys came up with great stuff. I love that. I thought because since we're doing such great work, I'd give you something challenging. This is going to be a way different assignment. Lest anyone think there'll be John Williams submissions. I don't think so, unless you think it works. But we're going to do something that's which I didn't really want to do, but I think that this will be a good challenge for us. We're going to score a foreign film. And it just happens to be one of my favorite of all time. But regardless, and one of my favorite soundtracks, it's a fun... I don't know if it's fun, but I mean, it's a very romantic French film, 1966, A Man and a Woman.
C'est beau quand même d'envoyer un télégramme comme ça, il faut avoir du culot. C'est vrai, non, c'est extraordinaire qu'une femme belle vous envoie un télégramme comme ça, c'est merveilleux. Quel courage.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the movie, and then we'll look at your scene. It's very romantic. It's a film written, directed by Claude Lelouch, and he's still living, but he's part of the French New Wave. We've mentioned French New Wave. Mostly Godard and Truffaut are the fathers of that. There's many other filmmakers too, but the French New Wave started kind of in the 50s. And it's and mostly with Godard with jump cuts. Okay, so jump cuts look like low budget ways of doing it, and some of the ideas were low budget because, like I'm talking right now, right? Okay, okay. Did you see that cut right there? They would do that deliberately. Sometimes it looks sloppy. Sometimes it's just the filmmaker's way of showing people's different emotions very quickly. If you make cuts, it's a film technique that was kind of, I think, used in a low budget fashion that really actually turned out to be quite effective, I think, because mostly the French New Wave is not about very like pristine storylines, linear way. It's not like that. I mean, Godard said you need a beginning, middle, and end, and not necessarily in that order for a movie. And so that's kind of sums up French New Wave. I mean, it's shooting on locations, without movie sets. Sometimes there's long takes, sometimes there's jump cuts. There's direct sound available. It's what I love about it is that it's very personal movie making, and the French came up with this. There's close-ups. It looks like almost like home movies in a good way, because it's and Godard and Truffaut loved the Hollywood golden age of films. They loved that, but they wanted to make their own way of just getting in the streets with a camera and shooting a personal story, much like Cassavetes would do in the 70s. So this is personal filmmaking, and today with this foreign film, this is very personal. This is nothing like Spielberg, nothing like other directors that we've talked about, Tim Burton. Nothing wrong with that, but this is on a more very introspective, personal, emotional level that's I don't know, that I like. But I mean, it doesn't. Again, who cares? So the movie is about two widowers, and it's a widow and a widower, and it's Anouk Aimée and Jean-Louis Triganet, and they meet at their children's boarding school, they drop off. They each drop off their kid, and she misses her train, so he takes her home, and they begin this friendship because both their kids go to the same boarding school, although they're both attracted to each other, and they both, as they talk, they realize that each spouse, they lost each one of their spouses with accidents. One's a suicide, one's an accident, because he was a stunt guy. So they kind of have this bond where they're both attracted to each other, but they both, obviously lost somebody that was very important to them unexpectedly. And their kids become friends. And I mean, the photography is beautiful. There's black and white scenes, there's color scenes, there's sepia tone shots. And, when I started watching this when I was 15, I was, not to mention the score. The score is just one of the best. You've probably heard the music. We're going to listen to it again. But I did want to say, just when I first started watching it, I was trying to read into some of the symbolism, because that's what you do when you try to pretend like you're an intellectual or whatever. And then I was reading that, like, he shot a lot of that stuff in black and white and in color and different things just because he was running out of money. So it really wasn't anything more than that. Although you could look at some of why he used black and white in certain areas and gather that, flashbacks or certain things like that. So it's fine to analyze it, but when it comes to just... And it reminds me sometimes a little bit of... When you have limitations, you're forced to be more creative. If you have all the money in the world and the budget and everything perfect, it's fine. If there's something that's not working right, then you have to think your way around to get a solution. And in turn, sometimes you create a whole new spark of innovation somehow by just accidents. So they fall in love, but it's tough because they're each trying to move on, but they can't forget their spouse that passed away. So, and the score is by Francis Lay, and he would do a lot of films with Claude Lelouch throughout the years. We talked about Nino Rota and Fellini, right? What was so important about Nino Rota, if you remember, he didn't write to the action of the scene, and this is very common with foreign films. It doesn't mean it's better. I'm not saying it in a high-minded way. This is just different, where American films, their score goes to the action. So if a guy's gonna, walk into a room and it's scary, we need scary strings, we need scary brass here. With European films, for the most part, the music is the atmosphere of the, not so much of like what's playing in the room of the scene. That's source music, and we looked at that with Henry Mancini and Touch of Evil. That's not what I mean. It's more, it creates the atmosphere of the tone of it. Now, when we looked at Juliet of the Spirits, the scene on the beach, that music has nothing to do with really the drama of the scene. I mean, in a way, the music is kind of fast-paced, just like the guy talking is fast-paced. So it goes in that way, but it's not creating, it's standing on its own. It's not creating an extra, it's not creating, okay, now he said something suspenseful, now we need something suspenseful right here. It's creating an overall environment that's just a soundtrack on its own. So it's standing on its own, and that's what I love about the music in foreign films, is that they realize that, hey, let's put a great score with this, and let's let the scene run for a few minutes, because the music is saying so much that we can't say, instead of relying on this is what happens in the script and the score is just gonna reflect, because I don't know. Sometimes, of course, that's effective, but if we think of all like the horror soundtrack movies, do we want to listen to those soundtracks in the car after the movie? No, they're effective purely for the movie, which is great. But I think foreign directors think, well, why not just play the whole song? Why not let the great music why don't we just let the characters walk around and play music there? So that's the real difference. And that's what, Nino Rota was is just an example that we've talked about that did that really well. So you're going to have to do that well. Let's look at the scene. This is at the end of kind of at the end of the movie, where he's a race car driver, and they've started a relationship, but it's a very reluctant relationship. They've been very cautious along the way because of their vulnerabilities and their kids. And so he goes off and does this race, this in Monte Carlo, for a few I don't know, I think it's several days. So he's off the grid while she's, the kids are in school, and she's seen him on the TV, because it's being televised, this race in Monte Carlo. She sees that he wins this thing, and sends him a note saying, and she's not sure what to send him. She wants to send him a congratulations or congratulatory note, and she hesitates, and then she says, well, I love you. And she's not sure if that's the right thing to say, because it's a little forward, kind of, perhaps, but she does it. And he gets the telegram while he's in Monte Carlo, and he says, when a woman writes that, something like that, you go to her immediately. So he leaves this function, and he drives all the way back to France, because he needs to see her. He needs to tell her that he loves her in some way. And so let's watch the scene. This is him driving back to find out where and he's gone to several places, including her house, to see where she's at, and he doesn't know where to find her. And so let's take a look at the scene. Very romantic, right? The music is there are words later and earlier in the song, but for the most part it's just the male and female voices doing the 5-note pattern. Francis Lay, great French composer. It's perfect soundtrack music. It sounds like jazz, French music. It sets the mood so well. It's such and it went on to be in commercials, and the music really is so. I love the movie, but the music makes it so. So you see how joyful that scene is. There's something sad about it because he doesn't know where they are, and then you see how happy they are and how happy he is when he finds. And the other kid with her on the beach, of course, is his son. So she just took them out to the water, but he surprised them because they didn't know he was showing up. You see the dog earlier in the movie, and so that's why it's not as random, because you see that they're all this joy that they're having, and then separately the dog on the beach is having all this joy. So it's very cool. Okay, let's watch it without the music. So what do you think? I mean, with foreign films, because there's space, and because there's nothing really happening. Okay, the guy's on a pier, and then he goes, and you can see the excitement because he's smiling, and they're joy too. But what could we come up with that is akin to sadness and happiness? A lot of the times with European cinema and some with American is that the emotions go very quickly. So the music has to set a tone, a melancholy tone, a sentimental tone. Whereas American cinema sometimes is like, well, the movie's scary, so just put a scary score. Sometimes with European cinema, it's more complicated. It's more complex. There's the emotions kind of range. It's a little bit. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying sometimes it's a little more elevated, because the theme is melancholy. It's a very happy, beautiful theme, but there's something sad like about it too. So see what you come up with. Again, this is a good. This is not easy. This is going to be a good challenge for us, and I'm curious to see if you guys come up with something romantic. It doesn't have to be, I mean, if you think Star Wars is going to work, I don't know. I might not put it in. Again, I'm just, I'm pushing you guys. I think that we can reach beyond some of these things that we've been looking at before. So get it to me by tomorrow. I know this is tough, but this is going to be fun. I guarantee you we're going to do a good job. So, all right, that's A Man and a Woman, 1966 French film. Beautiful, beautiful movie. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.